apologize for the delay. We called a quick executive session where we discussed personnel matters. And I'm going to turn this next portion over of the agenda to Mr. Bard. That's the question. Next page. Next page.
Yeah.
The table.
Yeah, I'm just going to look for a motion to approve returning extracurricular employees and volunteers from the table.
I'm just point of order, are we, item 2A is to untable, are we skipping that, or are we going right to approval?
No, we're just going to untable.
Untable. Motion to untable the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Keener. Thank you, Mr. Mauer. All in favor? Motion passes 6-0. Do you want to go ahead and do the rest of the class?
Sure.
Okay, on to residents' requests. The board provides a time for public comment at committee meetings for residents and taxpayers to bring their thoughts to specific agenda items to the board, but is not a time for exchange between the board, administration, and the speaker. We ask the speakers refrain from identifying specific students, staff, or community members by name. Each resident has about 3 minutes to speak to the during the committee meeting on the topic or one of the topics that are identified on the agenda. Residents and taxpayers who are interested in making public comment must complete electronic registration prior to 3 p.m. the day of the meeting. Mr. Graham, or no? Okay, terrific. I didn't even need to do all that. There are no residents' requests to speak. So at this point, I will turn the meeting over to you, Mrs. Johnson.
And I will turn it over to Dr. Danvers.
Thank you very much. So this evening, we're bringing you a presentation to share some information about the elementary ELA pilot as we head into year 2. Have some end of the year data collected. We are going to talk about the pilot construction now that we are finalizing classrooms. Talk a little bit about the professional development plan and how we plan will measure success this coming year and some curricular adjustments that we needed to make. So as you know, we want to make sure that we are strong in our connections to the comprehensive plan. And this ELA pilot obviously fits squarely in goal number 1 with curriculum instruction assessment. We are looking to strengthen our curriculum use data to assess that value, to make sure that we are having cross-curricular connections and increasing our instructional strategies found in all of the different classrooms. So we wanted to bring back some data on now that the PSSA data is in and we have our end of year benchmarking data on Acadience and ExactPath. So Mr. Graham, if you go to the next slide, we do have our preliminary PSSA results from this past year here. So I am sharing with you a piece of that. Here are some of our elementary ELA scores. And I'll take you through each of these 3 tables. We will have a more in-depth data presentation in the fall once we have finalized state assessment data. But this preliminary data allowed us to do a little bit of analysis of our pilot classrooms. That top table shows you the average scaled score for English language arts for grades 3, 4, 5, and 6. I've broken it down with our classrooms that had the Hempfield reading writing curriculum that we currently use, our Savas pilot classrooms, our Wit and Wisdom pilot classrooms, and then in gray is the summary of all district. If you look at that table, you'll see for 3rd grade, our Hempfield and Wit and Wisdom scores were very close to one another, with the Hempfield curriculum slightly, 2 points there. Scoring higher than the Wit and Wisdom. Savas is a little bit lower in 3rd grade. In 4th and 6th grade, the Wit and Wisdom pilot classrooms had stronger scores, and in 5th grade, the Savas classrooms had a stronger average scaled score for their ELA scores. As we've spoken to you a little bit about, one of our goals here is about writing, improving our writing in our elementary classrooms. The place that shows up in our standardized state assessments is with the TDA, or text dependent analysis. So we pulled out just the TDA scores. On the right, I have a note for you just so you can see the TDA scores are out of 16 points total. So essentially they're scored on a rubric of 1 to 4. So a 4 out of 4 is 16 points, 3 out of 4 is 12 points, et cetera, et cetera. If you remember, our average scores were under 9 in the past. So we have the writing scores. There's no TDA prompt in 3rd grade, but we have the writing scores up there for 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. And really pleased to see that our pilot classrooms are showing some strong writing growth. Wit and Wisdom again in 4th and 6th showed stronger. And in 5th grade, those Savas classrooms showed some stronger writing scores. The final table there that you have are the percent proficient versus non-proficient students in each of the different breakdowns, the Hempfield curriculum, Savas, Wit and Wisdom. I also, as a reference point in gray, gave you both the proficiency scores from 2022 for our district in grades 3 through 6 and in 2023. Slight increase for most of our grade levels when you look at 22 to 23, 3rd grade being the exception, a little drop there, but really pretty flat when you look at our scores from 22 to 23. As you go across the tables, though, there are some highlights in the pilot classrooms. Obviously, in 3rd, 4th, and 6th, Wit and Wisdom scored pretty decently higher than the district average, and the other classroom setups and the Savas classrooms in 5th grade again showed some higher proficiency rates. So that's just a quick look at the end of year PSSA scores that came in. I will note that there is no data here on growth. This is straight achievement scores. We will be getting the PVAS growth data in the fall, and I can do a better analysis for you about how much our students are growing in each of those constructions and setups. But this is one data point to consider and to see. Then I want to show you the other 2 benchmarking data pieces that we've been pulling throughout the year. First is our Acadience scores. So Acadience is that assessment that we give 3 times a year that measures early literacy skills. That is given to our kindergarten through 6th grade students. You can see the average scores there. The top line is the final growth from that first assessment to the final assessment. So both of our pilots, both Savas and Wit and Wisdom, showed more growth on the Acadience data than the Hempfield classrooms. Same with the, and then as you go down through the table, what you have as you go down through the table, the average of the first half is the growth from the first to the 2nd diagnostic. Average of the second half is the growth from the 2nd to the 3rd diagnostic. So interesting to see that Wit and Wisdom had the stronger overall growth, but Savas came out of the gates a little bit stronger. We had students who scored stronger on that 2nd diagnostic in those classrooms, and then Wit and Wisdom in the 2nd half of the year showed some stronger growth there. So that's Acadience. And then the final piece here is our exact path scores. The exact path is, it's an adaptive measure to assess the students' language arts skills and their readiness for learning there in those areas. Same thing here. Saw some really nice growth from our Wit and Wisdom classrooms. The Savas classrooms were pretty close to the Hempfield ones in this measure. Note that there is no kindergarten in this data. We don't start the year giving exact path diagnostic to our kindergarten students. We do in the 2nd half of the year, but for the purposes of reporting, we only have the growth data here for grades 1 through 6 for exact path. So a couple more data points. We will continue to inform you as we collect more data and as we go through the year on what those scores are looking like, so that we can have a good measurement when we get to decision time in the spring. And I'll talk more about measuring success at the end of this presentation. The next portion that I wanted to go into was the pilot construction. So how do we put together year two after you gave us a charge to continue the pilot for a second year? If you remember, this past year, we had 23 classrooms piloting Savas, 19 piloting Witten Wisdom. We asked all of those teachers whether they would like to continue piloting the same program, whether they would like to switch, or whether they wanted to discontinue. From our 23 Savas classrooms, 11 of those teachers asked to continue piloting Savas next year. 11 of them asked to switch to Witten Wisdom, and one of them chose to discontinue piloting either program this year. Our Witten Wisdom classrooms, all 19, asked to continue piloting Witten Wisdom. We then sent a survey to all teachers who were not involved in any pilot and asked if they would like to jump on for next year because we were looking to expand classrooms. 62 teachers responded there. 10 of them asked to pilot Savas, 45 asked to pilot Witten Wisdom, and 7 of them said they would be willing to pilot either program. So you saw we had a pretty hefty task in front of us. We had a charge from the board to make sure that we had an even pilot. We had far more responses for Witten Wisdom than we did Savas, but really a lot of credit to Mr. Hoffman and some of the legwork and conversations that he did, working with teachers, talking to them. We were able to do a really balanced pilot coming into next year. So on the next slide, I can share that we have finalized to date 97 teachers to pilot for this coming year, which is phenomenal. We're thrilled by that. We've more than doubled our pilot going into next year. We have 15 teachers who are going to return and pilot Savas for a second year. And then we have 33 teachers who are going to pilot Savas for the first time. So 48 total classrooms will be piloting Savas. I'll show you those in just a moment. In Witten Wisdom, those 19 are returning for a second year of Witten Wisdom that requested it. And in addition, we were able to place 30 more. So not all who requested, but we got a good amount of them so that we have 49 classrooms that will be piloting Witten Wisdom in this coming year. As a note, we do have 3 teachers who piloted Savas last year who will be piloting Witten Wisdom this year. So I think it'll be interesting to get their feedback as we go through the year on the differences between the 2 programs.
What grades are those 3 teachers?
That would be 1st grade, 5th grade, and 3rd. Yeah. So 1 in 3rd, 1 in 1st, 1 in 5th.
So curious why we didn't have some teachers that piloted Witten Wisdom do Savas this year.
Because all of them wanted to continue piloting Witten Wisdom. So
Okay.
it is, the pilots are all volunteers, so I couldn't force anyone to do anything they didn't want to do. There was a lot of excitement over the program. They really liked the resources. So
So I'm curious, the previous page, I don't want to get in
Yeah, go
the
ahead.
weeds, but there were 11 teachers that
Yeah.
piloted Savas and wanted to pilot Witten Wisdom, but they don't know anything about Witten Wisdom. Is that because of other teachers saying, hey, it's better?
it could have been for a number of reasons. I'm
Okay.
sure there's some of that. There's,
Okay,
you know,
all right, thanks.
there's some teachers that moved classrooms and now they're a different grade cohort and maybe some of their peers are, their grade level peers are doing it. We did have some teacher movement that influenced some of the decisions.
Okay.
Some of it is just, you know, the water cooler talk in the faculty room. So,
Kind of what I
yeah,
thought. Thanks.
lots of reasons.
I'll wait till your presentation done. I have a bunch of questions around the
Great.
data.
Sure. On the next slide, just a visual of what that pilot looks like going into this year. So it's color coded a couple ways for you. In pink, you will see all the Witten Wisdom classrooms. In that light blue, you will see all of our Savas classrooms by building and grade level. And in purple, we actually have 6 different grade level teams where we have teachers in the same grade level and same building who are going to be teaching different pilots. So for instance, Mountville 1st grade, I have 1 teacher who is going to be using Witten Wisdom while I have 1 teacher who's going to be using Savas. So 6 different times throughout the district, we're going to have that split, which will be nice because we have similar students who are going to have different pilot programs. Will give us some interesting data comparisons. If you look on the right-hand side, you can see as you go down through the grades, the pretty even split. Some of them are slightly off. You know, kindergarten has 2 Savas, 4 Witten Wisdom classrooms. It's dead even in 1st grade. 10 and 9 in second, et cetera, with a total of 48 Savas classrooms, 49 with Wisdom classrooms. You can also see at the bottom of the table, we have Savas and Witten Wisdom pilot programs in every one of our 7 elementary buildings this coming year. So really pleased and appreciative of Mr. Hoffman and the work that he did to build this chart and these teachers and get the balance that we were looking for as we went into year 2.
Mr. Dillon, just real quick question here. This looks like pretty comprehensive coverage, and I think that's terrific. How many classes, like if there was another column on that chart, how many would be how many are piloting neither program in each grade?
I didn't pull that. I certainly can get that information for you.
I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Because it looks to me like well over half of our students are in one of the 2 programs.
We have I would say definitely more than half that will be using one of the programs this
Okay.
coming year. Yeah, but I can get you some exact figures.
And then that control group, the control group, I'm assuming is sort of a mixture of buildings and ability levels and all of that.
You can see any of the holes, obviously, that are white are going to be our
Yeah.
Hempfield curriculum. And then there are certainly some of the grade levels that you go through where not all the teachers are going to be using the pilot. Some have a complete
Okay.
set, some don't. So yes, there is a mix.
Thank you.
I have a couple comments / questions regarding the data. I mean, I appreciate all the information regarding the testing scores. There's a couple things that I would think could be factors in those results. One could be the number of students in the classroom.
Yep.
The mix of students in that classroom and whether there are different levels of needs. And then maybe even the teacher, depending on, the results that they typically, exude from their classrooms. So I realize it's hard to factor that into a degree, but I would expect that data is data, but without context, data can be misleading.
Mhm.
I would hope that we consider that as we're looking at this, because did every student take each one of these tests that was in every one of those classrooms?
So no, in the Cadence and the Exact Path, if they didn't have a first and a third diagnostic score, they weren't factored in. Now, a majority of them did, but there are certainly move-ins, move-outs. There were some times where a classroom didn't get all the diagnostics. And to your point, that's why I said that table is only showing achievement. It is not showing growth.
Correct.
It doesn't say anything. We could have the strongest kids all in this one class.
Correct.
We don't know how much we grew them. So that we are going to work on for the fall.
That brings me to my final point. The data that's going to be the most powerful in looking at this is the growth of those students from where they were to where they are, not where they started, regardless of their testing scores. I mean, I appreciate testing, but testing is only a small aspect of everything. Growth is important. I may be scoring 100, but if I go to 110, I've grown. I may have a student in there that's scoring a 900 on a test or whatever that benchmark is, and they may have scored an 880 and that they still may show up at a higher level than the individual that grew by maybe 20 points, for example. So I would love to see, as you move into this, more growth data and less just flat out testing data, because that's really where the bread and butter lies.
I don't want to misrepresent and have anyone feel that this is an end-all be-all data presentation. We're just sharing what we have coming in from the end of the year. We are waiting on that growth data to come in the fall so that I can present that as well. And to your point, in a couple slides, I'm going to talk a little bit about measuring success in some of the areas that we're looking at going into the year that will hopefully guide that decision-making. All good points. Thank you.
And I think it's good we're getting some information now, and we usually get things in phases anyway. I mean, as a parent, I can remember you don't have that test score yet. When's that going to come? And so we're experiencing the same thing on all of that. And so one of my questions is now, as they look at this data, well, I have 2 questions. Looking at this data, I assume that Mr. Hoffman and principals are all making adjustments about how to have team meetings, et cetera. And so, which leads to my question. If you have a team, all your 5th grade teachers, do they start to meet separately from the pilot, from the ones who have pilot or that they meet with just the Savas or with the Wit and Wisdom?
Are you talking about like on our professional development days?
Of professional development and also on their team plan times?
So, yeah, the individual planning, not so much. I mean, they could meet together as a team or they would
Right.
plan individually. That's sort of up to them. On our professional development days, and we're gonna be talking about that
Okay.
next,
Mhm.
we do have most of our days throughout the year,
Mhm.
where we have coaches from each of the programs coming in and working with, the teachers in each of the individual
And
programs
the coaches are from the publishers.
on that content. Yes,
Mhm.
yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
So let's lead into that. Let's go to the professional development plan. So that's next. We have been working on training this summer. So each program, Savas and Wit and Wisdom, are providing 2 days of training for all of our staff that are in a program this coming year. That training is differentiated by whether this is the second year in a program or whether they are new to the program. So they have split the teachers up there. But each teachers will have a strong 2 days of training before they get into the classroom. That's really focusing on close reading, and we ask them really to specifically focus on writing as they go into the training here, especially for our teachers in year 2 of the program, to make sure that they had some good consistency and good training there. We are this year including training for our elementary administrators, so that is coming up in August. A lot of our elementary principals have sat in on the teacher training, but we are having each of the companies provide a training specifically to the administrators on how to evaluate and coach as they go through the classroom. That'll be a new addition this year that we will be having in August.
Where
Uh,
do the reading specialists?
I'm
go?
sorry?
The reading specialists?
Yeah.
What training, which training do they go to?
They've been involved in, a lot of them have been involved in both. They bounced around
Okay.
in each,
Mhm.
and they'll continue to have our professional development sessions throughout the year. We have distributed the materials to teachers over the summer so they can start preparing. Teachers are hard at work at that. And we have a pretty strong professional development plan throughout the fall and winter. Like I said, almost every professional development day, in-service day, early dismissal day, we have our coaches working with our staff on the ELA pilot. So that is ongoing and continuing throughout the year. We are working with each of our programs to include a parent session in the fall as well that we'd like to, it'll be shortly after parent-teacher conferences. So the teachers, when they have the parents in, can share, hey, we have a parent informational session coming up in 2 weeks for Savas because we're using Savas this year, or Wit and Wisdom because we're using Wit and Wisdom this year. And parents can come out and hear more about the program and ask questions. So that'll be a nice addition this year. And like I said, we were able to secure coaching from both programs. The model is slightly different, but they both have a fairly comprehensive plan. Wit and Wisdom has a coach who will be in here 4 out of 5 days throughout the year, working with our teachers directly. Savas has 3 coaches. They're differentiated by the 2 of them from my view, 1 of them from my perspective. Who are going to be in targeted 47 days throughout the year. So we're really pleased by the number of days that we are getting for the coaches, and we're using ESSER dollars to pay for that. All right, measuring success. So here are some of the things that we're going to be looking at as we go through this year and collecting and sharing with you. As I said, growth data is coming. So as soon as we can pull that growth data together for you, we will have that so that we can share what that information looked like from last year. We are working on developing a walkthrough tool for administrators, not evaluative of our teachers, but evaluative of the program. So you can see there are a couple bullet points that I listed that they might see on the tool. So we can collect the data about what they're seeing when they get into the classroom about how the program's being used. Do they see students explaining their thinking, using text evidence, and some little check boxes just so we can get some data there from the administrators. We will be continuing to collect the exact path and the Acadience benchmarking data. Those are important data points that we will use throughout the year, continue to collect and share them with you. In addition, one of the things that is important for us is to measure writing. So we had the TDA score and the PSSA, but we're also going to give our own writing prompt. We're going to give a beginning of the year, middle of the year, and end of the year. We are going to measure that with the state TDA scoring rubric. We're going to give the same prompt to all of our students in both the pilot programs so that we can see how their writing scores will grow throughout the year. And we're going to have our reading specialists and our principals score those so that, and there'll be blind scoring so we can get some objective data there on writing. We're going to continue to survey parents, students, and staff as we have in the past, and then we'll pull together 2024 PSSA data as necessary. So those are some of the elements that we're looking at. Always open to feedback if there's other things that you'd like to see brought forward. As we mentioned, because we took another year to make this decision, which is an important one, we did have to make adjustments to our curriculum cycles. In particular, our math and our social studies programs. Right now, we use Envision Math from Savas and My World Social Studies from Savas. Those were both 6-year contracts. We did have to extend those. For math, we had to extend that an extra year, and for social studies, we had to extend it 2 years. So we were working with Savas. They gave us a nice discount on both of those programs to make those extensions because we were working with them. So for math, you'll see a 45% discount, and they also gave us some additional workbooks for free. And in the social studies program, they were able to offer us a 50% discount, as well as an aggressive discount on shipping as they could make. So numbers wise, what that looks like on the next slide is the total for both subjects is $237,000 to extend them. Those additional 1 year for math, 2 years for social studies. I am trying, I don't know if I can. The social studies will be in the 24-25 year. Mr. Murski, as you know, had spoken to the state about getting an extension on using our ESSER funds into 24-25. His approval was contingent on the ELA program, whether we can use those dollars to extend the social studies curriculum as well as a result of the work we're doing in the ELA program. I don't know yet. If I can, I'll be able to pull 1 year of the social studies out with ESSER dollars and 1 year district funds. Otherwise, the entire 237 would be with district funds. Yes.
So have we not done the extension and these sort of derivative extensions would not have been necessary? What would we be spending on math and social studies? Because we would be spending something else on them, right?
Sure. So we
So
would
what,
be.
like, what's the delta here, I guess is what I'm curious
Yeah.
about.
We would be back at the point where, similar to the ELA pilot, 2 years before, we would start a pilot, we would examine multiple programs, we would have a cost package that would come together potentially for another 6-year program. So it's impossible to say exactly what it would be. Obviously, for the ELA program, is north of $1 million for that 6 years. So yeah, it would certainly be something, we would have to pay regardless. I'm just giving you the dollars to move those out, exactly what we're looking at to pay for in this coming budget year.
So my point is, it's not like this is all incremental money.
Right.
We would be spending something.
We would.
here For whatever the new math program would be, whatever the new social studies program would be.
Correct.
We'd be spending something regardless. So the actual net cost to the district is significantly less than what's indicated here.
Net cost, I agree. We would not be paying for it in 23-24 like we will have to now, but you're right. The net cost would be potentially negligible. I mean, this
Okay.
might even be at a discount because Savas has been working with us and giving us a break, knowing that we are piloting their program.
Thank you.
Questions?
Dr. Dandridge, I apologize. I probably missed a little bit of this, but I think it was slide number 9 with the coaching. I know there was some discussion in the past, and I don't want to revisit that whole discussion, but just remind me, I think you mentioned funds for ESSER funds for those. Are those going to be teachers that are coming out of the classroom?
So these we are not using any of our staff. These are coming from Savas and they are coming from Wit and Wisdom.
Okay.
They have
That's what I thought.
hired their own staff. They've trained their own staff. They are coming in and will be working with our teachers hand in hand.
That's fair. I just wanted to make sure, I understood that, if they were going to be coming from our classroom, might have had some additional questions. Thank you.
Other questions?
This seems very comprehensive, but my question is, what else do we need to know at this point?
We're going to continue to keep you informed. I mean, we did a lot of presentations this past year on the pilot. We'll continue to do that. I'm thrilled by the response we have from our staff, and a lot of that is the commitment from the board to give a fair and objective look at both programs as we go into year 2. I think they heard that message. Mr. Hoffman was able to go around and have a lot of conversations with teachers who had questions about it, and that allowed them to jump onto one of the programs for the coming year. Have been sitting in several of the trainings this summer, as I know Mr. Hoffman and others have been as well. There's a lot of excitement for it. So I think people are pretty positive about year 2 of this pilot.
That's good to hear. Now, if I remember, I saw part of the raw data when these test scores initially came in.
Mhm.
And if I remember correctly, which I probably don't, but I'm sure you do or Mr. Hoffman does, our scores for our elementary kids stayed consistent to the past, or they even increased. Is that correct?
So it's feeling a little bit of thunder for the fall, but that's okay. We can preview
Well, we
tight,
need good
a little
news.
bit.
We need a way
I-
to praise our teachers. They've done a great job.
I can say in
and
rough
everything.
numbers, our math scores, so we implemented math program this past year, saw a really nice jump in our elementary grades, 3 through 6. Very excited to be able to share all of that with you in the fall.
Mhm.
So the program is working. Usually we even see an implementation bump. We didn't see that. The scores went up year 1 that we started using the program. Fantastic. Our ELA programs overall, scores overall as a district were fairly flat. Slight increase in most areas, and that was on one of the early slides. Some of our pilot classrooms did show some nice growth over the Hempfield classrooms. But overall, it's been pretty consistent as to what it was last year.
Well, flat is much better than the dip.
It's not
that
dipping. correct.
Perhaps you've
Correct.
heard about in national news.
Correct.
So, and I was really excited when I saw those scores and really proud of our staff. It was not an easy time to teach at all. And they really hung in there with our kids and it paid off. And I just say thank you on behalf of the board. And you could pass that to your teachers. Yep. Anything else? Motion to adjourn? No. Oh, is
I
there
think
another?
our vote-
Oh, well, we don't have anything.
Good.
I didn't think we had anything to talk about. I thought there was anything. All right, for policy, where is it? Oh, I thought we already did that. Oh, okay, yes, I will. Okay, so, I misread it. I'm sorry. All right, Mr. Keener. It's your
I'm
turn.
sorry, what? I didn't hear.
I'm
you.
turning it over to you for policy.
Oh, Mrs. Johnson, it's my understanding that we do not have an agenda for policy today. The only remaining item in the agenda is the approval of the extracurricular position that were tabled from the July 11th meeting. And then we untabled it earlier this meeting, so now we need a vote to approve.
Is it okay for Mrs. Johnson to handle that, or does that need to be turned to me?
That's up to you, Mr. President.
I don't care. We just need to vote.
I'll make a motion. We approve. Yeah.
Yes. It would be more.
The extracurricular employees and volunteers.
Second.
All in
Any-
favor?
Or any discussion?
Oh, right. We always have to discuss.
Any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries 6-0. Thank you.
Now can I have a motion to approve? I mean, to dismiss.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, we dismiss classes.
Second.
Adjourn meetings.
All in
Get this
favor?
straight.
6-0.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you all for coming. It's July.
I just spent